Hello, this is Kerwin and Keith of Father Son Galaxy. Star Wars The Force Awakens was released in theaters December 18th, 2015, the first film of the sequel trilogy. The movie, directed by J.J. Abrams, written by J.J. Abrams, Lawrence Kasdan, and Michael Arndt, brings together the legacy characters as well as a new generation of characters. The movie was a critical and commercial success. It was the highest grossing film of 2015, and it earned over $2 billion worldwide. And at the time of release, became the third highest grossing film of all time. In this episode, we will revisit the film 10 years later, and we have two guests. Kyra Navarrete of Relatable Nerds is with us, and from Broaxium and co-host of Around the Galaxy, Chris Ryons. Kyra and Chris, welcome to Father Son Galaxy.
So much for having me.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this. As I said earlier, when we were discussing before we started recording, we started our podcast in 21, so we never really got the opportunity to discuss The Force Awakens. So I'm glad that we're here now, and it's been a while since I've seen the film, but I want to start off by talking about 2012, like a few years before the movie came out, when Lucasfilm decided that they were going to, find a buyer. Disney came around and bought Lucasfilm for a little over $4 billion. When you heard this, when this happened, what was your reaction? Kyra, what was your reaction when you heard that Disney was buying Lucasfilm?
So this was 2012, you say? I was freshly out of high school. I think I was a freshman in college. I had thought all of my hope with Star Wars was just with the animation series and all of that. So I didn't really think too much of there potentially being another movie or a trilogy. So when I started hearing those rumblings, I mean, I wasn't as well versed as I was either with keeping up to date with the news and everything. So I think I acknowledged it, but I was kind of in disbelief. I was like, there's no way. There's no way any of this is going to happen, but definitely excited nonetheless. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
What was your reaction, Chris, when you heard that Disney was buying Lucasfilm?
Disney buying Lucasfilm had been a fear of mine for a while leading up to it happening. And when it happened, I was silent for a bit because I was like, no. Like I was in denial big time with it, and I didn't like it. I'm a Lucasfilm, I'm a Star Wars guy, not a Disney person. I wouldn't be giving Disney money if it wasn't for the fact they had my Star Wars. But so I was shocked, and then I had to cope with it, and I was like, well, that Avengers movie is not too bad, so maybe this won't be too bad. And then it wound up being a good thing, I think.
Yeah,
great thing.
So that's interesting. So did you think that Disney was not going to be able to manage the IP, or they were just not compatible with Lucasfilm?
I think that maybe they would do okay with it for a couple of years, and then it would. I see what happens with other franchises that they had, other IPs that they've had, and it starts out real strong, and then they're like, we don't know what to do with it anymore, and then they just let it fall to the wayside. I've seen it happen before, so that's what I was worried about. But it's still going strong. Like I say, like my thing was, if it wasn't for Rebels, I was like, this is going to be my first thing as far as an on-screen thing. Like, if Rebels doesn't turn out good this first episode, then I'm going to be as critical and pointing my finger at them the way that other fans do when the special editions came along with the prequels or whatever. And Rebels came on, and I was like, all right, you got it. All right, that's good. I'm in. Let's go. So, yeah.
Now, I know you were very young. Do you remember anything about The Force Awakens? Any recollection of the movie or anything about watching it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember watching the trailer.
Okay. Yeah.
For some reason.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember watching the movie. That's pretty fun. Like on the couch or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
It's been a while. It's been
Like,
a
I
while
do
since.
remember the film,
Mhm.
just not like specifics.
Got it. Right. So yeah, you and I had to rewatch it just a few weeks ago just to remember, you know, what happened in the film. Yeah. So I'll tell you, I mean, you probably already know this, and I've talked about it at length. I am a big fan of the original trilogy. And to me, I don't think anything beats the original trilogy. So when I heard that Disney was buying Lucasfilm, like you, Chris, I was a little skeptical. I didn't think they can recapture the magic. This is going to be a very difficult thing. Even after hearing, the legacy characters, like Luke and Han and Leia coming back, and I said, nah, it's still not going to be the same. But what convinced me was the trailers, as Keith talked about. I thought there were 3 trailers. The trailers were probably some of the best trailers I've ever seen in any film. And it could be because it's Star Wars that, really there are a couple of only a few things that you need to do to get people excited about Star Wars. Of course, you have the music, and the Millennium Falcon was one of the images, and Chewie were home. I think that's all we needed, So I don't know if you have any recollection of the trailers and anything in the trailers that actually caught your attention, Kyra.
I definitely remember seeing the trailer, and I remember being caught off guard because I also, like you both, didn't really believe that. I wouldn't say that I wasn't taking it seriously, but I didn't really have high hopes for it, and I wasn't thinking too much in depth of what the potential could be if they were even going to follow up with the trilogy, if the first movie was going to do well. Obviously, seeing those characters, especially Han Solo, and we didn't know that Luke was going to be coming in either, till like the end of that movie. But I definitely, like you said, Kerwin, with the music, I feel like captures you no matter where you are. And no matter like if you're busy in the middle of a street, if you're watching the trailer, wherever you were watching the trailer, as soon as that John Williams classic soundtrack comes on, it like stops you in the middle of whatever you're doing, and you're like, oh my gosh. But I definitely enjoyed the trailer. I remember calling my dad immediately, and I was like, oh my God, Dad, like this is happening. Ooh. And he wasn't really on the internet or social media at that point. Like he had a Facebook, I think, but he wasn't really checking YouTube or anything. So he didn't believe me at first. He's like, oh, you're lying. Why would you lie to me like that, Kyra? Like, that's not true. And I'm like, no, Dad, it's true. And then, yeah, but I enjoyed the trailer. I was here for it. I was very excited because it felt like another chance again to experience that magic, especially being adult now. Like I only got to see the prequels in theaters up until that point, and that was one of the best parts of my childhood. But getting to have that experience as an adult and keep it going, I was really excited about it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it really caught my attention, especially seeing the first image of John Boyega in a
Yes.
stormtrooper outfit. I mean, I was not expecting that. I nearly fell out of my chair when I saw that. But the movie just made me feel like a kid again, because when I was, during the original trilogy, I went out and just bought anything I could about the movie because I was so excited. And I did the same thing with The Force Awakens, and I went, you know, I lost it. So I went and I got pretty much anything that I can grab my hands on. I got this Vanity Fair magazine, and there's Time magazine, and then there's the Entertainment Weekly. I still got that, and then Rolling Stone. I mean, like it was
Oh,
all over the
classic.
place. I have more stuff. I don't want to embarrass myself, but I I went too far. That's what I want to say. I went too far. So Chris, so even after, well, I know Disney, was something that you're skeptical about, but how did you feel after seeing the trailers? Did that
Well,
help?
after Rebels, I was like, okay, cool. Just give me. I'm like, I'm in. So yeah. The first one, the teaser, where it was a couple of quick images, and then like the Falcon going through like a little bit of Jakku fighting off the TIE fighters. I thought that I was like, all right, that's dope. And then I'm like, that's all I'm gonna get for like a year. Okay. And then I would just watch that over and over again. Um, and then I think it was Celebration, Orlando or Los Angeles. It's one of the two, and where they showed the next one where I think that's one where Finn pops out. That was the first one where Finn like pops out or something like that. I think, and that one was great. I mean, I was happy because we're as far as being a black fan, we're getting like one of the mains is going to be black. I'm like, this is amazing. This is great. So yeah, I was ecstatic with all of it, with every single trailer that they put out. They were expertly done. And had me believing that Finn would be the lightsaber wielding.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll talk about that.
I think all of us believe that, and they really did us in with that one.
Yeah.
I've never forgiven them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. So let's get into it then. So, all right, so here we go. Star Wars: The Force Awakens. So you start off with the crawl, and the first sentence is Luke Skywalker has vanished. And I'm looking like, vanished? What do you mean vanished? Like what was your thoughts when you saw that on the screen? Luke Skywalker has vanished, Chris.
I think while I was watching the crawl, I was so trying to like just like visually record and everything. I was like, okay, all right, he's missing. Where's he at? Okay, cool. And then like I'm just like just reading everything, like trying to like soak in as much as I can. It was cool that like he wasn't there. Like a goal for them to get to, because it really adds to his mystique, or like what's he been up to since the end of Return of the Jedi. And what does it have to do with him missing, or what kind of person he is in this whole thing? So yeah, it was a great like mystery thing that Abrams and them threw in there. I liked it.
Mystery box.
Yeah. So when you saw that, Kyra, Luke Skywalker has vanished, what did you think? Did you think he just walked away, or was he kidnapped? Or what did you think?
I feel like I was so immersed and just happy to be there in that moment. Like I clocked it. It was like a 5-second thing where I'm like, okay, he's been vanished for a long time from my life anyway, so that's not news to me. Like, but I know we'll get to that part eventually. I'm glad they like touched base on it, because obviously all of us walking in that theater were like, where is Luke Skywalker? Where is everybody that we know? But I'm really glad. I'm happy they mentioned it, but I'm so glad that they formed an entire story before him and they didn't just use him immediately, just to engage everybody. I think it was such a smart way of just, okay, you guys, he's coming, he's on his way, we're going to find him eventually, but let's tune into these other stories first. Obviously, I was excited. Luke Skywalker was my first crush, so I was like, oh no, here we go. I was so excited. But yeah, I think I forgot though, because I thought it was just so engaging immediately, the movie, that I wasn't even really thinking about Luke Skywalker until the end when we actually get to see him.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest.
Yeah. It was like, oh yeah, him. Cool.
Yeah, oh yeah, that guy. I forgot about him. Oh, he's back. Okay, cool. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I think they handled it pretty well. I mean, you knew that was the goal, right? That was what people wanted. The good guys were looking for Luke. The bad guys were looking for Luke. So it was really about, okay, well, where is he and why did he leave? Did anything you want to talk about as far as Luke Skywalker vanishing?
I didn't even notice.
Yeah, you didn't notice. Yeah. Until he showed up.
Yeah.
So
fair.
This movie was so high stakes, and we know that because this is, the last Star Wars film was in 2005, with Revenge of the Sith. And this is Disney, and they had a lot to prove, bringing Star Wars back. And so part of, why this film had to be successful, or why I think it was successful, was the cast. So I want to talk a little bit about the new characters and, just talk about their performances and let me know what you think. You think, were they impactful? Were they effective? So we'll start with Poe Dameron, Oscar Isaac, right? So Poe Dameron, which is, if you follow the comic books, I know Chris does, is the son of Shara Bey and Kes Dameron, who are actually rebels who fought in the Battle of Endor. So I thought that was a nice backstory. So what did you think of Oscar Isaac's performance as Poe Dameron? Chris?
I thought he did great. I see him in other things before, so I had no reason to think that he wouldn't bring it in this one. And I guess his performance was done so well. Like, he was supposed to, that character was supposed to die in Force Awakens. But he had done so well that they had decided like during filming to bring him back or change the script so he could come back. I thought that was great that they did that.
Yeah. Oscar Isaac. So it seemed to me that he, not to compare characters, but he's this hotshot X-wing pilot that we, seen before. Like he's a little bit of Han Solo, maybe a little bit of Luke Skywalker because he's an X-wing pilot. But what did you think of his performance, Kyra? Oscar Isaac.
Initially, if I'm being brutally honest, I didn't love Poe Dameron. And I love Oscar Isaac. He's one of my favorite actors. I loved him. I'm trying to think of what at that point that I can think. I love that movie Sucker Punch that he was in. And there's a couple other ones, and obviously post this movie as well. I forget if Ex Machina came out before The Force Awakens or not. But nonetheless, I thought he was a little too arrogant for my liking. And there were moments throughout this trilogy where I was like, oh, like he grew on me, of course. But initially I wasn't sold on him. I was absolutely sold on his partner in crime, BB-8, though. I think that's what reeled me in. But yeah, I didn't love him in the beginning, if I'm being honest. I didn't really care for him that much.
That's the reason why we're having this conversation. There's some things where
Yeah.
hit and miss. Like, do you have any thoughts about Oscar Isaac's performance?
Cool.
Very good, Keith. All right.
Pretty cool guy.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, you're right. He is arrogant, but he's also self-assured. He doesn't scare easily, and I like when you're going to talk about Kylo Ren next, when they first meet each other on Jakku, and he's captured by the Force. What's
the
the
First
name?
Order.
The First Order, right? The First Order.
First order.
And Kylo Ren is looking at him eye to eye, even though he has a mask on, and no one is saying anything. And Poe says, "Well, do I talk now, or you talk now?" I thought that was pretty funny. That was that told you a little bit of what the type of character he was going to be. So
yeah, and
Kylo Ren,
he's a cocky fighter pilot. Like a Tom Cruise's character in Top Gun or something like that. He's brash and yeah, very cocky. So yeah, I thought that was good for his character.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I thought he made a good foil with Kylo Ren. So now, Kylo Ren, I want to talk about this entrance. I thought this was pretty cool. So they're on the planet Jakku, and they're being, the villagers are being taken over, and his ship lands, and he has a theme, and then he walks off. Walks down on the surface, and he's got this cool looking robe on. He's got the mask on. And he's got some strong force powers. I like something I've never seen before, where he was able to stop a blaster in midair, which I thought was pretty cool. So, and then to me, I think Kylo Ren, Adam Driver gave the best performance of the new characters in the film. What's your opinion on Adam Driver's performance, Chris?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He it's a toss up because Boyega did what he was asked to do and did it well, but a character like what Adam Driver did with Kylo Ren, I thought was like it was sort of like the reverse Anakin role. Like he just started out evil and kind of really fell into it and at the beginning of Rise of Skywalker, and then made his full turn back. But yeah, I thought his character was very I was like, this is a complicated character. He's very layered, and this dude is damaged, and I just loved the way that Driver handled it, and he made it very compelling. And as far as his force ability goes, I was stunned, like stunned when he stopped that laser blast, because I'd never seen anything like that before as far as a force ability goes. So yeah, that was extra cool. Yeah, I thought Driver was fantastic, and I hope that they finally do this whole Hunt for Ben Solo thing.
Please. I agree. Kylo Ren immediately was a favorite character of mine for sure. I just, without getting too far ahead of myself, I know we're just talking about the very beginning, but I just wanted so much more from so many more of these characters, and Kylo Ren is obviously one of them. I feel like a lot of people feel that way. I was sold. I was sold on it. I still am sold on his character. Maybe not the ending in Rise of Skywalker, but definitely sold on his character in Force Awakens for sure. Yeah.
What a bum.
Who?
Kylo Ren.
Why is he a bum? Move close to the mic.
I mean, this isn't really a Force Awakens problem.
Yeah.
I don't know why he just started throwing temper tantrums in The Last Jedi. It's just, I can't get it out of my head that one scene where he like breaks his own helmet
Yeah.
and starts cutting up the wall and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
well, I mean,
wow, what a guy.
Well, what do you think? I mean, is he, maybe he was a
Damaged.
spoiled child, or maybe he didn't get enough attention from his parents, or
He's professional attention seeker.
Yeah, but that is interesting that he is, of course, he's, leaning towards the dark side, but he's also has this temper tantrum, which is, sometimes can be uncontrollable. So what causes something like that with a person? Like, this is something that they're missing in their life, or they're lacking some guidance or some leadership or mentorship that he didn't get. Yeah, but why would he be,
He was born into a family of greatness and is always trying to get that validation that he was, he could be like as good as, when he wants to be as strong as Lord Vader, or trying to live up to the name of the Skywalker name, and his mother, who's a leader in the rebellion and a leader in the New Republic, his war general father, all that stuff. So I think that's part of it. And like when he finally decides to follow in the footsteps of his grandfather, the wrong footsteps, but he follows in those footsteps. And then you have, he's constantly competing with General Hux for the attention and the praise of Snoke. And then, like in Last Jedi, to jump forward, but in Last Jedi, when he, he says, like, for what he did to his father, he said, that's, I split you down the middle. You're just a child in the mask. You're no real, warrior. And he just feels like everything he's done trying to get to this level of this expected greatness is like nothing he does is working. And yeah, so when he's in the elevator, he snaps when he tells him to take that ridiculous mask off, and he snaps and destroys it. It's a tantrum. He's got anger issues like crazy. He's got some anger issues. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes him an intriguing character because he's not like Darth Vader.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nothing like Vader. Vader to me was like a level of coolness, and confidence.
And even he had to work towards that.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Right. When he was Anakin, yes, you're right. He did have his.
Oh no, even when he was Vader. Even when he was Vader.
Initially, yeah.
Yeah, because like if you look at if like in the comics and leading up to the end of the Obi-Wan series, like he was anger and rage, and he was focused on wanting to get revenge on Obi-Wan rather than do what the Emperor wanted him, just doing what the Emperor wanted him to do. Like the Vader that we see in the original trilogy doesn't happen without that journey of him. Because to me, in the Obi-Wan show, to me, he was still Anakin in that suit. He was still Anakin on Mustafar in that suit. But near the end of, at the end of that series, he's able to let that go and become that Vader that we all know from the movies. So yeah, he had his journey as well.
Yeah.
Speaking of Vader, So you know how at the end of Return of the Jedi, he shows up as a Force ghost? Did his free trial expire or something? Because you would think that he would show up in front of Kylo Ren and be like, "My child, no, I stopped being evil a long time ago. Don't do that." But he
That's a
just
good
kind
point.
of
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah.
And Yoda shows up to go talk to Luke in The Last Jedi, so why didn't he do that?
That's a very good point.
If Anakin couldn't
yeah,
show up, at least Yoda would.
right. I don't know.
It
But,
could be just didn't
That's
they
have
true.
just
like the
wanted
right
to let
connection
him
with him,
be
maybe.
evil continuously.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I don't think that Kylo didn't have that kind of connection really with Anakin or something. Something kept them all away until the last moment. In Rise of Skywalker, but it would have been nice to see that. But there is a Legacy of Vader, the Reign of Kylo Ren comic that comes out tomorrow, where he's getting really close to he's following in all of Vader's footsteps right now. So it something like this may happen, but as far as he's concerned, Vader's always been in his head talking to him because Palpatine had been manipulating him, from his, from Exegol or whatever. So yeah, maybe there was no way for Anakin to get to him or something. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe he's like, I'll let the kid work this out. He'd be all right. Or or because Anakin, his spirit is somewhere in the other galaxy. If you look at the Ahsoka series, maybe he's just over there doing his thing. Maybe he can't reach him.
I think Anakin thought that, he was going through a phase, maybe, right? Because Anakin as Darth Vader needs that mask to survive. Like when he puts that on, it's like survival mode. This is who he has become. I mean, Kylo, it's kind of, he's just putting it on to be cool, I guess, and to look more like Vader or kind of like demand a presence. I feel like that's just kind of his whole thing, is that he's constantly masking himself and he's constantly at war with himself and having these inner battles. And I think being born into a Skywalker family, solo family, like you're just destined to be conflicted with everything around you. And I definitely think you mentioned earlier, Kerwin, he probably did not get a lot of attention. Not saying that Leia and Han are bad parents or, Luke was a bad uncle. I mean, he kind of was a bad uncle in the end there. But like, I feel like he probably was trying to find that, his purpose, right? His self-actualization moment where he's trying to figure out what he's meant to be, and definitely got lost a little bit there because everybody's so important in his life. And, I think he was just trying to figure it out. But maybe that's why Anakin was just like, oh, he's gonna get over this. Maybe he was giving him the benefit of the doubt, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. But what's nice is that when they created this character, Kylo Ren, they didn't make him as a carbon copy of his grandfather, which is great. And you're right. I think, yes, he was just a young kid who was just trying to find his way. And I completely forgot that he is very young and still immature. But yeah, you're right. I agree with you, Kyra. He's just trying to find his way. What is his purpose? Why am I here? And then just the battle, I can imagine the battle that he has with his mother, and she's the princess, and now she's the leader of this rebellion, and his father is a hotshot pilot, and
He has none of the sauce that they had.
right, yeah. So I guess he's just like, he doesn't have either one of their qualities. I don't know. I don't think he represents either one of them, and I think that's probably what made him so angry, is that, okay, well, I can't be this leader of this rebellion. I'm not this hotshot pilot like my dad. I don't know. So I really do believe that he was just trying to find his way. That makes sense. Yeah. Right. Let's move on. Yes, let's talk about John Boyega. All right. So Finn. Now, before we get there, now let's talk about John Boyega. I'll let you speak on it, but I think his character was actually had to do more than anyone else in this movie. The new characters. Right. Because he's a new character, for one, and two, he has to interact with so many people, and he had to do it well, and it had to be convincing. Like when he tried to free Poe and try to get him away from the First Order, the chemistry between he and Oscar Isaac I thought was great. And then now when he's with Rey, Daisy Ridley, the chemistry also has to be stellar, and then when he has his moments with Harrison Ford, so it's just that he had to do a lot more, and he had to have a lot more style and sophistication so that he can connect with someone like a Han Solo or a Rey or Poe Dameron. So what do you think about John Boyega's performance, Kyra? I thought he was a great addition to the Star Wars canon.
He was phenomenal. He's one of my favorite parts of the new trilogy, and he did it with such grace. And I feel like with everybody that was in this new cast, out of all of these characters, I believed his story and I believed his portrayal the most out of anybody. Dark side, light side, whatever. Like, I thought his was the most believable. It seemed the most authentic. We never really got to like dive into the life of somebody who's a stormtrooper or what got them to that point, and him finding himself and trying to find his purpose. And just like you said, everybody that he came into contact with, like every scene he was in was just amazing. You just wanted to see more of it. And I know I said this before with a couple of the other characters already, but I just wanted so much more. And I just thought his storyline had the most potential. And I'm just disappointed with what they did, because he did phenomenal. I mean, again, one of my favorite parts of the new trilogy for sure. Yeah.
Chris, John Boyega?
Yeah, he was okay. He was all right. No, he was the Finn character was the linchpin for this entire film. If he was not in there, like so many things would not happen. And it's unfortunate that his character, as far in my eyes, got the short end of the stick the entire trilogy. The potential that he had, the fact that you can see him, you can see his Force sensitivity in The Force Awakens when he notices the Starkiller base beam destroying. He notices that it's been shot before anyone else, and like he didn't see it first, he felt it first, then looked up and saw it happening. So that Force sensitivity is there. They didn't touch on it until lightly in The Rise of Skywalker, but. This character had, like you said, this character had chemistry with everyone he was in a scene with, and it just there was so much potential with his character, with his story, like you said before, because we never had a story where we got to know a stormtrooper or anything like that, and there was so much more they could have done with that, and they didn't. Disney got cold feet or whatever, but I thought he was. To me, like, he would have been the better protagonist. I'm sorry for the Rey fans out there. I'm sorry, but I thought he would have been the better protagonist.
That's fair. Anything you want to say about Boyega?
Great performance. I just think, and I feel like everybody would agree with me, that he got completely butchered in the next two films. It was like critically underutilized to the point where it destroyed any characterization he had in this movie.
Yes,
that's fair.
Because he was the MVP of The Force Awakens, dare I say?
Yes.
And
no dare. That is
Jedi, and he's part of the B plot, just kind of running around fighting the First Order, and then The Rise of Skywalker, he just kind of screams for Rey multiple times. He just is kind of whinging in The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. It's I think I think there was a lost opportunity with this character. I know one of the criticisms I've heard over the years about this film is that it's just a carbon copy of A New Hope.
Yeah,
which it is.
I remember I wrote this down. There were like at least 50 references.
Yes, you're right. Yeah,
to A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. No, it was Return of the Jedi. But like 50 reference plot points or similar threads.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it was beat by beat pretty much. The only thing that it had going for them that I thought was original was Finn, because this is the
Yeah.
first time we've ever seen a stormtrooper defect, and join the resistance or join the rebellion. And then, Chris, you're right. I think throughout this film, we did see traces of, it's possible that he might have the force. One of the things, the example that comes to mind is, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but when Maz Kanata gave him Luke's saber, I
Why
mean,
did she have that?
okay, well, we don't know. We're gonna
Yeah,
find
that's a
That's like
story
if
we
I
still haven't
pull
gotten
out
yet.
your birth certificate
Yeah,
and your credit card, and you ask me, "How did you get that?" And I say, "A good question for another time."
right. Yeah,
And then in
yeah,
your entire life, you never find out the answer.
yeah. We'll talk about that. That's one of my pet peeves for this film. But when he was given the lightsaber, I mean, he used it like, you know,
Like you knew
not
how to
bad.
use it.
I mean, for somebody who picked up a lightsaber for the very first time, I mean, he knew how to use it.
It
You
looked
know,
very natural. It
yeah,
looked very
yeah,
Yeah.
natural. Yeah.
It
yeah,
wasn't like Mando with the dark saber where he had no form that was like dragging it the whole time.
right, exactly. He didn't drop it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, he only
he didn't
dropped it
fumble
Yeah,
the
when he
lightsaber.
dropped.
Yeah,
yeah. Mando wasn't
exactly.
worthy of wielding Excalibur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then yeah.
And then at the end of the film, when he's, on the snowy planet with Kylo Ren, and he picks up the lightsaber again, and the stance that he's showing, and he holds a lightsaber, and how the blue of the glow of the lightsaber just illuminates on his face, and he's just standing it there, and Ren says, that lightsaber belongs to me, and he says, "Come and get it." Like,
I
wow,
was geeked.
yeah, that was really
I
good.
was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
he's gonna be a Jedi. Can't wait
yeah,
to see how they follow this
that's
one up.
yeah, that's a Jedi
Hmm.
stance right
Yeah,
there.
waiting for the
Yeah.
banger that Ryan Johnson was no doubt about to deliver.
Yeah. So, there were definitely some missed
Oh
opportunities
god.
with Finn. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
all right. So, anything else we want to say about
Mhm.
Finn before we move on to the
Well,
next?
there's plenty.
I actually just thought of something.
Yeah, go
There's
ahead.
So you know how
plenty.
Finn
I'm
is
not
like
gonna go there.
a stormtrooper,
Mhm.
and it's been established that the stormtroopers just kind of get stolen and then indoctrinated. So you would think that he would have a couple of moral quandaries about like killing his brothers and his, friends.
Sure.
But during literally any scene after this where there's stormtroopers involved,
Yeah.
Finn just treats them like extras, and he's just like, yeah.
Well, that's true. I hear what you're
That's a
saying.
good point.
Not
Yeah.
once does he stop to think about what he's doing or try
Right.
to have a conversation with any of them, except for what was it, 2199 with the electric thing.
Hmm.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's the only one where they had like a conversation, and that's because Finn was getting beat up.
Well, yeah. So he was in defense mode. So I guess he couldn't, put down the lightsaber and say, "Hey, I was one of you. Like, we're brothers. Let's talk this out."
No,
There
that's
wasn't there
something that
wasn't
should
any
have
time for
been.
that. Yeah.
That's something that should have been. I was expecting the Poe and Finn liberation story for the next one, where they, had to bolster their forces since, the First Order destroyed, Hosnian Prime, just the seat of the New Republic. I was certain. Well, I was hoping that that would be the story. Them going on this anti-indoctrination liberation,
Mm.
adventure, to bring these other people into the fold. Now they're sort of starting to handle it now, with really building on his story, especially with the book that just came out from Kwame Mbalia, the Last Order, and that one delves into Finn's past, into Jana's past, and what they're like post Rise of Skywalker. Wish they would have established things that were mentioned in books, like that Finn was a top cadet. They didn't focus on that at all. He was just, always afraid or scared or wondering, I'm a janitor. Like,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
in the theater like, no.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I still love the movie. It's
Yeah.
just to Finn. They did him wrong. They did him wrong,
Yeah.
and it never got
Interesting
better.
career path, going from a janitor to be deployed on the front lines.
Right. And I don't even.
Yeah.
Somehow they
Well,
keep
like all
technology.
the troopers, like they do the the menial tasks and stuff like that. But the fact that they want to mention that, but they don't mention that he was a top cadet who's a sick marksman. These are things that are in the Journey to the Force Awakens, like one of those, like his short story. That should have been mentioned in in this movie in some place, so we have a little more respect, I think. But nah,
Did they write that before they wrote the script for The Force Awakens? Was that already like canon or out there? Or did they just do it out of order like everything else they kind of did?
I think this came out at some point, either around the same time that the movie came out or a little bit
Okay.
before. I think it was a little bit before the movie
That's
came
so
out.
frustrating. It's so
Yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah, and Chris, you're absolutely right. I have the book right here. So this is there were 4 of these books that came out, these young adult novels, and this one
You
before
have the other
I have
three.
all 4, yeah, and then this one is before the Awakening. Yeah, this tells you the backstory of Finn, and this story takes place right before they actually landed on Jakku, and um, Phasma said it herself that he was one of the best stormtroopers that she has ever seen. And he
It
was
would
the
have taken
top
3
of
seconds
class.
to say that in the movie.
Exactly
Yeah,
right, and
and
that was never mentioned in the film. It was never mentioned in the
you
film.
have no idea that
Yeah.
that's even the case at all.
Yeah.
That's horrible that they failed to mention that. It's just, it really blows my mind how just The Force Awakens into The Last Jedi, into The Rise of Skywalker, like what was going on in those rooms where they were planning for like a plot line or how the story was going to unfold, because obviously so many people are thinking the same thing that we're thinking about Finn and his potential as a character. And if they had these stories in these books coming out around the same time or stuff, it just seems so almost just, I just don't know how they failed to incorporate any of that information when it could easily have been relayed in the movie. Like you said, 3 seconds, like a simple line here or there, or just Phasma acknowledging him or something like that. It could have been very easy. But
They wanted to focus on Rey and Kylo, and
Yeah.
I mean,
to be
I don't think
started.
it's. I love it. I don't think they were wrong to focus on a woman stepping in
Right.
to a Jedi role, but I think they could have done both, and they were on their way to. And I think there could have been a great balance with that. But it is a shame that they focused on Rey more, because it could have been such a great story.
There was room for both of them on the door.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. So let's talk about Rey, Daisy Ridley. I thought
right.
she gave a very good performance, and again, she and Boyega had this chemistry going on. I thought I wanted to see more of them together, but absolutely, you're right. I mean, these could have been your 2 leads throughout the entire trilogy.
I agree. And
But
I think they had some nice moments going with
yeah.
Finn and Rey.
Yeah.
Like, when they were escaping the TIE fighters that were shooting on them, and then Finn keeps grabbing Rey's hand, and she tells him to cut it out.
Right.
And then when they both get knocked out, right? When Finn wakes up, the first thing he does is ask if she's okay.
Yeah.
And then she sees that he actually cares, and then she holds her hand out to him. I thought that was a great moment.
There you go.
If only Finn wasn't chasing her around for the next 2 films.
All right. No, I get it. So anything you want to say about Daisy Ridley's performance as Rey?
I mean, I enjoyed it. I loved her character. I mean, let me be specific. I loved her character with what they did with Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Again, great potential. I think towards the next, I know I keep touching base on the next 2 films, but in The Force Awakens alone, I thought it was great. I thought there was so much potential. I like that we didn't know anything about her past. We didn't have to, say she was related to someone who had the Force yet. Like, it was just an organic kind of story where she was.
Yeah.
Again, obviously kind of alluding to A New Hope with finding, an orphan, or not an orphan, but just somebody alone on a planet, not really knowing their past. But I liked her performance. I believed it. I thought she did great.
I agree with that. And I
Yeah.
really like the fact that Rey and Finn got to use the lightsaber, and especially Rey, because if it wasn't for her, they probably would have both died, considering that Finn was knocked out for the end of the fight.
Yep.
And she was the one who pulled the lightsaber to her, so I think she had more force power than he did at that time. Also, I know Tatooine is just like Jakku's. Jakku is a copy of Tatooine, is what I'm trying
Sure.
to say.
Yeah.
But I felt that Rey had a different origin than Luke with the whole scavenger thing. And I thought that was pretty cool because that makes sense why she's so resourceful, like when she was fixing the Falcon. My only problem is that, again, I have no idea where this lightsaber came from.
Oh yeah.
So,
Okay. We're going to talk about this lightsaber. Yeah, we're going to get there. Chris, I just wanted to hear your opinion about Daisy Ridley's performance.
I thought she was fantastic. Now, because I was such a Finn head, I'm like, I didn't hate her character. I side-eye her character like, man, she got everything. What did Finn get?
Yeah.
Got a scar on his back. Got beat up and was scared all the time. Like, she got the Force, she got the Falcon, she got everything. Finn got nothing. So that made me just like,
Finn got scars.
Yeah.
But I thought her character was fantastic. Daisy, she killed it. I thought she did an amazing job.
Great acting.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so I was talking about, one of my pet peeves of this movie is that there are questions. Well, one in particular, we never got an answer to, and that bugs me. And that was when, we're at Maz Kanata's castle, and Rey goes down in the basement and she opens up that treasure chest and finds Luke.
Visions.
Yes, and she finds Luke's a couple of things about this scene. So she finds Luke's I don't think she even knew whose lightsaber it was, but when she opened it, I guess it was calling to her. And she opened up the treasure chest and she touched the lightsaber, and she saw visions of places that she wasn't even there. So when she saw Luke and the burning of the Jedi Temple, and then she saw the Knights of Ren, how did she see that? Because she was not there when it happened. Now I understand that there was a moment where I think it was Ankar Plutt that was pulling her away, and the ship's taking off, and there was a scene where she saw the future, where she and Kylo are on the Starkiller base and they're having that lightsaber battle. But talk about the moment where she sees Knights of Ren and Luke when she wasn't even around at the time. Like, why is that? How does that work?
I mean, she read the script ahead of time, is all I can say.
Besides the script,
There was more of the Knights of Ren in that flashback than there was in the Rise of Skywalker.
But it doesn't make any sense to me. So I think the filmmakers had a plan to go somewhere with that. But what do you think? Kyra, what do you think?
I think that was a cool, very powerful moment. Definitely just to reinforce that she has the Force, right? Or she's starting to wake up to it more as time goes on, as she's on her journey, which I feel like most people that we've seen in Star Wars that are Force sensitive do kind of go on this journey where you start seeing these little moments happen. It is frustrating they didn't touch base on it. I think that's probably just because of the switch up with directors from the movie, and maybe just them not really remembering or focusing on that. But I mean, I guess I don't really know. I mean, other than that, she's Force sensitive, and maybe just by touching the lightsaber and where the lightsaber has been, it has those memories encrypted in it. And if you are Force sensitive, you see it, you can kind of, just be there in that moment, in that memory. So
yeah, well, how come that didn't happen to Finn though?
Well, good point. And
good point.
And the other thing too is that's what I thought too, Kyra, about when she touched the lightsaber, that maybe she was seeing a memory. Well, it wasn't her memory, it was actually the lightsaber. Like maybe the lightsaber has been through something. But remember, this lightsaber was the one that Luke got from Obi-Wan, right?
Yeah,
for his father. He lost his hand on Cloud City.
So
this lightsaber
has no idea what's going on either.
So this lightsaber has been sitting around for decades. So I still don't know where that vision came from. Do you have any idea, Chris?
It's called Force psychometry.
Okay.
where like Cal Kestis had it in the Jedi games and whatnot. You can, and Quinlan Voss has it as well from Clone Wars. You can touch an object, and through the Force, you can see like that object's history, like what it's been through. There's a book called Star Wars Force Collector that's in the sequel trilogy era, where this kid named Karnuk Sun has been having like these terrible headaches and like super migraines and things like that. Like, you know, sometimes when he'll touch something and get a vision of that object's past, where his family thought it was a sickness, it was the Force, and he was being opened up to the Force, and that's what happened with Rey. She touched this thing, and the first thing that she sees is the corridor from the duel from on Bespin. Like, you know, some of the maybe like the last memories or whatever from that object, but also that's the Force, like, you know, awakening, and that's the Force letting her know your journey is about to begin. Like this happened with Cal Kestis as well, where the Force had touched him when he was hiding out on this, you know, on his planet after, you know, a few years after Order 66. He had himself like a bit of a Force vision, and that was a Force prepping him and letting him know things are about to change and you are about to be needed. So I think that is pretty much what happened with Rey when she got it, and with Finn, his is just a bit more latent, I guess. And you know, they never followed through on it.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I feel like it was going to happen with Finn if they would have taken the time more to develop that story. I just think everybody's journey is different, but yeah, I think it's just kind of the universe and the Force kind of waking up to whoever is around it, maybe just, you know, showing up more for that person. But I think it was going to happen with Finn if they would have followed up with the story. Definitely, just it's a different timeline.
Interesting. And then why do you think they brought in Luke's lightsaber in the first place? You know, as far as we know, that lightsaber has been lost, is still on Cloud City. I don't know how it got to Maz Kanata, and apparently neither did she, or she didn't want to share it with anybody because we still don't know, unless I'm missing something in a comic book or something, Chris. But why did they bring this lightsaber back?
I guess to add another story that they weren't ready to tell yet. It's cool they brought it in so they can give it to someone else later on to fill in those gaps, because even with the original trilogy, there were still so many questions that we had, or with all six of the first, the first two trilogies. There were still so many questions that needed to be answered that weren't. So when it came to the sabers, like, well, where's the severed hand? You know, not to be like grotesque like that, but like, you know, where's the severed hand that goes along with it?
That's a great question.
And then that was used in one of the comic stories, as far as helping with the whole Project Necromancer thing with Palpatine. In the comics, Luke goes back to Cloud City to look for it and can't find it. So something that happened. There's still many stories with that saber that need to happen, just like what we're getting right now. We're learning about, like, with the hunt for the Millennium Falcon, this Han Solo comic. How many people had this thing, and we're like, you know, finding out about each person as he is trying to recapture his glory days. And he's having a little space midlife crisis going on right now. He's, you know, trying to find his old car and you know, joyride it again. So it's just one of those things that will be touched upon later. Like, I'm still waiting to find out about the Battle of Tanab that Lando talked about in Return of the Jedi. That story hasn't been told yet. I'm a little upset about that. But so there's it just sets up another story later on to kind of help to flesh out these new eras, I think.
I think, because when... Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Kyra.
Okay. Well, I mean, when they do ask her, she says, good question, you know, another time. I mean, just a quick search, they say it just ended up in her hands, like a worker from Cloud City found it. And then I guess through the trade line or something ended up, and maybe she saw it and she's like, oh, yeah, I need to grab this. Like, this is a good find. Um, yeah, I wish I feel like they could easily bring it up in like a story or a comic or something though, and touch base on it, and just like maybe bring some clarification for all of us super nerds out there, just so we can go to sleep at night, with like
Yeah.
peace finally.
Yeah. I think it's because they ran out of places to get kyber crystals from, and therefore more lightsabers. They just used the old one and then never explained it. Also, Maz Kanata has to be like top 5 worst Star Wars characters, like most annoying.
Really? Why?
I say this as a joke,
Oh,
but like not only did she refuse to explain whatever was going on and be mysterious for all the Force Awakens, she just couldn't be bothered to show up in The Last Jedi because she had a trade dispute. But the trade dispute won't matter if everybody gets annihilated by the First Order. So if anything, she should have just relegated it to somebody else and showed up to go help the resistance instead of just sitting there, fighting racketeers or whatever.
yeah. I know it's
She
hard.
wasn't even in The Rise of Skywalker, was she?
She was,
Yeah, she was.
briefly.
What did
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
do?
I remember she gave Chewie
Not
the
much.
medal. Now
Sadly.
that's another thing. Like we're gonna go down this rabbit hole of the Rise of Skywalker, but I know it's hard to
I hate that movie.
talk about one of the 3 movies without talking about the other 2. But yeah, she was
Can't
in there
wait until we
briefly.
do a breakdown of The Last Jedi.
Okay,
That would, be,
man.
that would be a fun video.
okay. Anything else we want to say about Maz and Luke's lightsaber?
Liked Maz. I thought she was silly. I love it when maybe her character wasn't, didn't serve a greater purpose for this trilogy, so to say. But I love it when we meet new characters, new, different, I'm not sure what she was, what alien or creature she was, but I love when we get to meet new people in Star Wars and kind of just they drop in. It's kind of like the droids. I love when we get to meet new droids and stuff like that. So I didn't hate her. I thought it was fun.
I wish Lupita Nyong'o would have gotten a role where we can like see her face instead of just doing the voice behind the character would have been
Yeah.
great.
That's a good point. I agree with that. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
even know why they cast Lupita Nyong'o that had Maz Kanata do pretty much nothing.
Yeah.
Because her biggest role was The Force Awakens, and she was only on screen for like 3 minutes.
Mhm.
Could have
It
definitely
was
had
quick. Yeah.
more to do with her.
Yeah.
But I could say that about most characters in the sequels.
All right, let's move on. Harrison Ford. To me, I think, you mentioned John Boyega as being the MVP. I think the MVP in this film to me is Harrison Ford. That this film does not work without him, that he is the bridge, that brings the legacy characters and the new characters together. And I think Ford gave his best Han Solo performance in this movie.
Yeah, I think he finally got his wish.
Yes, we're going to talk about that. So, Kyra, what did you think of Han Solo's Harrison Ford's performance as Han Solo?
I mean, definitely initially, like, I feel like a lot of us were tuning into this movie just to see him, just to see Leia, just to see Luke Skywalker eventually. I loved it. I definitely, you felt like there was some tension though with him and Kylo, and like, there just always felt like something in the air that was going on with him though. I enjoyed it. I always love Han Solo. I named my dog after Han Solo, so it's always cool to see him on screen. And I love it when he's with Chewbacca and just seeing the Millennium Falcon. I think more so is just nostalgic and a cool ode to have him back in there and still see him doing it. I was definitely shocked that Harrison Ford was like agreeing to do these movies again. Because he was kind of older, and I know he kind of signed off on them pretty quick with everything that happened, but it was cool. It was fun. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Chris, Harrison Ford.
Yeah. I'm glad he came back. I'm not like I don't know. Han Solo isn't like my favorite character. Maybe in top 10 somewhere, maybe top 15. But I'm real glad that he came back and yeah, he got his wish. Like he was looking for a meaningful death for his character.
Yeah,
and he got it because this eventually came around to save his son in the end.
Yeah.
yeah. Go ahead.
unfortunately, it all went to serve Kylo Ren.
Well, yes.
I mean, they are the new guard. They got to pass the baton.
Torch, yeah.
Totally. It's what I liked about Han Solo in this movie was that, of course he's older, he's wiser, and he's seen a lot more than, he's a lot more experienced in life than he was when we first met him. And I loved his conversation on the Falcon, when he returns to the Falcon and Finn and Rey tells him that they're looking for Luke Skywalker, and he stops. And it's not like, he's got this solemn look on his face. It's not like, oh yeah, Luke, my boy. Yeah, yeah. Have you seen him? What's he doing? It's like he was just very upset. And that something happened, and he didn't say that he knows Luke. He said he knew Luke. So something really happened. I mean, outside of, we know of Kylo Ren, maybe destroying the temple and, taking out some future Jedi. But I want more of this story. I want to know exactly what happened between Luke and Han. But just from his facial expressions, you could just tell that he has seen a lot. And then the conversation that he had with them, he was talking about Jedi, and then he said that Jedi, he thought it was a bunch of mumbo jumbo, a magical power holding together good and evil, the dark side and the light. Crazy thing is, it's true. The Force, the Jedi, all of it, it's all true. You never thought you'd hear that coming from Han Solo.
Yeah, that's growth.
I remember when Rey showed up to unspecified planet of unknown origin, Luke was like, "Oh, is that the Falcon? Where's Han?" And I was like,
"You're going back to the Last Jedi.
Who's gonna tell him?"
Okay.
Yeah. It definitely felt like that trifecta of characters that we've known, right? Like Han, Luke, Leia. There was definitely something in the air that happened, some drama, like obviously he's been apart from Leia for a while as well.
Yeah.
That probably had some type of effect on Kylo, Ben, So I feel like there definitely was some drama that happened that was unresolved, and Han Solo probably ran away from it, just knowing who he is, I think, and got on his ship with Chewie. And, that's probably, I'm not trying to say that's why Kylo became Kylo, but definitely some resentment probably towards his father or things that had happened, that we don't really know because they didn't really touch base on it. But you could definitely see that there was some uneasiness and you wanted to know more, but you just didn't, couldn't really tell.
Yeah. I mean, this is unrelated, but I feel like it was kind of a mistake to kill off all three of the original trilogy characters, but Luke especially. That's a Last Jedi criticism.
Sure is.
But I feel like Han should have stuck around a little bit more if it wasn't for the fact that Harrison Ford just does not. He seems to hate Han Solo with like a burning passion.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Did Han?
He hates Han Solo?
No. Did Han Solo have to die? Now I understand that this was talked about years back.
Yeah, like Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, well, yes. And then Return to Jedi, when Lawrence Kasdan and George Lucas was writing the script, Lawrence Kasdan said to George, well, we have to get rid of one of these major characters have to die. And he thought it needed to be Han Solo. And George Lucas said, no one has to die. That,
he was right.
It was, everybody's going to live happily ever after. It's not always about that. This is a fairy tale. It's a fantasy. Han needed to be around. But Harrison Ford agreed with Kasdan that, well, there isn't much left for his character. So he was okay if he, had to die. So it finally happened in this moment. But my question to you is, Chris, did he have to die? Han Solo?
Sure.
He did. Okay.
Sure. I mean, if Obi-Wan can die,
why not? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can't. If these characters aren't either being killed off or relegated to the background, no one's going to pay attention to the new players. Like people went to these movies wanting Han, Luke, and Leia to go on these super great geriatric space adventures, and like that's not, you know, uh,
It's not realistic, you know.
yeah, you've gotta, you've gotta make room. You gotta make, you gotta make room for these new characters. So if the death serves a purpose, you know.
Yeah.
Do you agree, Kyra?
I completely agree. And I think coming back full circle with all the things that we've said about Harrison Ford and Han Solo, especially in terms of Kylo, I think that closure for both of them was necessary for Kylo's growth. Now, I wish there would have been a lot more done with his character because of this pivotal moment in his life with his father dying.
Yeah.
I think they really could have spun that into something more. But I think when I look back at The Force Awakens as a whole, I think that was probably the right death to do in that movie for sure, just because it could have been the catalyst for a lot more in the next couple films, and now correct me if I'm wrong, but this is like out of the movie things that happened, but didn't he break his back, Harrison Ford, or he got injured on the set and
like a plane crash? Oh, in on set.
In Force Awakens, I think that's what kind of jumpstart or kind of wanted him. Like I think he told them that he's like, done, because I think he had like a major injury on the set of The Force Awakens.
I think he may, and I think that just delayed production for a bit, but I don't think that affected what the script was. I think that script was already in that he was gonna pass. Yeah.
Well, yeah, he broke his left leg. Okay, that's what it was. Yeah. All right.
He did. Yeah.
I could see him being like, "Yeah, guys, I'm done after that. Like, no more." But I can't imagine his stunts were that crazy. I don't really know. I don't think he was doing maybe running on the Falcon or something. But I don't know.
I mean, it's not like he was doing flips and all of that.
Right, Jedi stuff.
Well, you could tell that this was something that they really took care to tell. And they planned it out very well because, even though he had to die, it was great. It was memorable. I think it was probably one of the more memorable scenes in the movie. Like just the way it was set up. Kylo is walking this catwalk, and Han yells out Ben, and the two of them come together, and this is father and son. He's trying to convince his son to come home with him. And, great performances by both Ford and Driver. And, Ren saying, I know what I have to do, but I don't have the strength
to do it.
Yeah. I mean, that was pretty powerful.
And then he impales his father.
Right. Yeah. And then, if you notice when that scene happened, you saw the lighting, like the lights go down because the sun was going down. And then just a few seconds right before he ignited that lightsaber is like tension filled. And then every time I see it, even though I know what's going to happen, it still shocks me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That scene was powerful. Like I remember in the theater the first time watching that, and when Han yells out his name, I was like, his name's Ben. Because like Kenobi, I was like, oh, that's just, I was like, oh. and unfortunately for me, I was on some Star Wars Facebook group page or whatever, and some jerk had I guess they saw it in some other country or whatnot, and took clips of the saber going through his chest. So I found that out like a week beforehand. So I was like, huh. So when he's walking that catwalk, I was like, oh,
here it comes. It's about
here it comes. Like so right, for me that was all heartbreak. Like that whole thing. Like I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. That felt terrible. But like that whole scene was so like heartbreaking between them. Even before he gets stabbed in the chest. Like at one point, and it's very, very subtle. If you watch that scene again, it looks like Han like really gets through to him when he says like, "Come back with us," and Kylo takes this minuscule, like almost like a step forward, like he was like, like he was going to do it, like he
Yeah.
was going to drop those ways, and it clicked back in, and he did what he had to do to feel like, this is what I have to do to get to the next level as far as being this dark side user. This is what I have to do to be the menace that I was
level.
meant to be.
Yeah.
So
And they did all that and had the nerve to redeem him at the end.
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
It's
killing your own father has to be the point where your character just doesn't go back.
correct.
And
Yeah.
for whatever reason, they tried to have him do a character arc 180 when he should have just stayed evil at that point. I wouldn't have been mad if that's how it went.
Anakin killed a whole lot of kids.
Yeah, that part. I feel like though, to touch base on the Han Solo, Ben Solo saga here, last thing I'm going to say about it, and I'm sorry, Kerwin, to bring up another movie because I know we're talking about The Force Awakens.
That's fine.
But I think one of my favorite moments in terms of emotion that I felt in The Rise of Skywalker was when, Han shows up to Kylo when they're on that like water planet and he just goes, "Hey kid." Oh my gosh, waterworks. I could start crying thinking about it now because I was like, in the movie theater, I was like, no. And then, he walks in and then they have that moment. And I was really glad they did that because I wasn't ready to say goodbye. But that really, I thought that was really touching to give them a little bit more of closure at the end there, even though I didn't agree with the whole script and what they did with this character. I thought it was cool that they brought him back for that little, 30 seconds where they kind of had that little conversation. So
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree
Yeah.
too. That was a
it was
great moment.
touching. Yeah.
That was a great moment. And it's actually even better that it was his father returning than
Yes.
the grandfather, right? Because I
Yes.
think you're right. It does bring closure because
Yeah.
of what happened with the two of them in this
Mhm.
movie.
And for beat, it was the same conversation,
Mhm.
just in a different,
Font,
different reverse. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
So who next?
Carrie Fisher.
Leia should have died in The Last Jedi.
Okay, all right.
I'm so sorry.
No,
Like,
there's so many
really
things to say.
Genuinely, they should have gave her a better send off than, her getting shot out of the airlock into space and then doing the Mary Poppins thing and then coming back.
Yeah,
Could have wrote some poetry with that now.
I got you.
They just decided no.
Well, as far as legacy characters, that
She is
yeah,
probably one of the best.
absolutely. And it's bittersweet to now watch Carrie Fisher in any of the Star Wars films, but this one in particular because the moment when Han and Leia see each other after who knows how long, and then you hear the theme play, and I thought it was very, very touching. What do you want to say about Carrie Fisher's performance, Chris, in The Force Awakens?
You can tell she had to knock off some ring rust, as far as her acting goes. But she still knocked it out.
Yeah,
She's still not, so yeah, it was really cool to see her back and to do her thing. And once she got into the groove, she couldn't miss. That was peak Leia. So yeah, I dug it. I'm glad she came back.
yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I liked where they she was a general. I liked where they put her in the same field that she always knew, and she was running things, and it just seemed like a very appropriate place for her to be. And it's just like with all these classical characters that we've loved for most of our lives, it's just always good to see them, and it's always good to connect with them. And I was just happy to know that she exists somewhere still, and she's still fighting the good fight. So I loved her moments. I will say though, Keith, I agree with you with The Last Jedi. That was quite the moment when she is out of the ship and just floating in space. I didn't even know what to think. I was just speechless.
Yeah. And then they turned Admiral
Am I the
Picard
only
to
person
fried
that liked that scene?
calamari.
I didn't hate the scene. I will never hate anything she's in. I'll always give it a chance. But
yeah.
I think I was just kind of in shock. I was like, where do we go from here? And I don't know. I'm glad I'm glad she didn't die, though. I will say that. but you know, it was definitely quite the shocking scene for sure.
It was definitely different. You know, she force pulled herself to the ship through space, so it's gonna look weird because we had never seen it before.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just how I took it. I am, and that's the one thing in space, like in Star Wars, you have a little bit longer before you know horrible things start happening to you physically, as we've learned in like Rebels or whatnot. Yeah, it takes a few minutes before things go really bad.
Yeah,
It's true.
Can we talk about the Resistance?
sure. What would you like to say about the Resistance?
I think out of the 3 good factions of the 3 trilogies, the Resistance is probably the weakest, purely because I would say the Republic is kind of gray, because there's a lot of corruption with the senators and all that, and the Jedi especially. I'm lumping the Republic and the Jedi in, and then with the Rebellion, it seemed pretty good in the original trilogy, and then you get to things like Andor, and you see that they were genuinely shooting each other at multiple points. Just a lot of they were doing things for the greater good, but it involved a lot of sacrifice and a lot of objectively bad things, like murdering your own comrades. And
The Resistance we're talking about?
no, the Rebellion,
Oh,
like
okay.
Andor.
Oh, I see. Okay, I got you.
So
Yeah, those are a bunch of different cells that weren't even in alliance at that point. You know,
yeah.
there's just a bunch of different cells and butting heads, and no one knew what they wanted to do just yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, bad things happened.
I really can't with the disjointedness of the Rebellion. And then we get to the Resistance. And I couldn't tell you anything about the Resistance other than that it's just the Rebellion squared. Like, it's the same thing, but it just doesn't have any of the depth that the previous 2 organizations had. And yeah, I would say the same thing about the First Order as well. Because at least with the Separatists, they had like nuanced villains. No, they didn't. They made Count Dooku. Count Dooku's got to be the oddest like character from the Separatists. They made him a racist at some point. Like he just had like no consistency. He was pretty cool in the films though. But then we get to the First Order, and they just don't have any of that. The Empire, Darth Vader, Emperor Palpatine, Stormtroopers, all the cool stuff. And then we get
Yeah.
Kylo Ren, who's like Darth Vader, but diluted.
I actually agree with that.
Do you remember the metaphor that I displayed a while back? So I took some orange juice, right? I poured it in a glass, right? And I was like, this is the original trilogy. Then I poured water in it. And I said, this is the sequels. Some people enjoyed it, but most people poured it down the drain.
Well, okay. Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to move on to that. Yeah, I wanted to talk about. Well, yeah, I want to talk about
I don't hate the sequels.
No, but you have a good point. So this could have been. This was confusing for me. I don't know if it was for anyone else, but the Resistance and the New Republic. So remember, there was a scene where General Hux has this big speech, and he's just lost it.
Yeah, he was like,
he's very, very angry.
I thought he was
He's
gonna be like a Tarkin clone. He was genuinely out there, like actually tweaking. It is so crazy that of all the characters that they had previously established, they took General Hux and made him the spy, the most evil guy on the team.
He became
worse
a joke.
than Kylo Ren.
He became a joke. Yeah, and I think that's what you're saying about the First Order being the light empire.
See, that's why the other guy shot him. And then took his role and then proceeded to die.
Right. So yeah. So we have the Resistance.
What are these films?
But then there's a scene where Starkiller Base is, firing at this planet, and we had no idea who these people were. And apparently, I had to read it afterwards, read about it. But they were a part of the New Republic, and I think they could have done a better job explaining who those other people were. I don't know. Maybe they did. Apparently, they shot something because they had characters in costume, but they had no speaking lines. So I don't know. That's something that you picked up on, Chris? The
The
Resistance or the New
Resistance,
Republic?
the Resistance is separate from the New Republic.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Because in the one book, Bloodlines, Leia, I think it was talked about there, but it was also sprinkled in here, different little storylines here and there, was that Leia saw the coming of the First Order and wanted to protect the galaxy against that. The New Republic, just all kind of bureaucracy and red tape and this and that, and they dismantled their military pretty much. So they didn't really have a force to fight anything like this because they didn't want to be associated with that. They wanted, I get it. They wanted peace. They didn't want to make a war machine out of the New Republic, but then that crippled them. And so Leia wanted to start a military. They denied it. She started her own, the Resistance, and it is not as strong because it's not backed, at least not publicly, by the New Republic. So yeah. They were starting off like just not fully ready for what the First Order, and they've been building up for the past 30 years at this point. The First Order has, like, from the Imperial remnants and whatever's going on in the unknown regions, Exegol, of course, all that stuff. So yeah, they had things in place in case there was a fall. So they were ready. They were ready, mobilized, and full on armies is where the Resistance was not, and was playing catch up the entire time.
It's like the best metaphor I could think to apply to the New Republic is you could put the pie in the oven for an hour, but it can still come out undercooked. It's all about the heat that you apply to it.
Poet. That's very good. That's very good. Yeah. Do you anything you want to add about the Republic and the Resistance, Kyra?
Honestly, going over all of this, I just wish Tony Gilroy was able to write for The Force Awakens, or I wish we could have seen more of his world building, just the way he did in Andor. I know it's hard to accomplish that in a film format just because you only have X amount of time, right, to establish all of these things, and there's so much to cover and so many questions that are going to be left unanswered. But I just really wish Tony Gilroy would have been there to kind
Would
of
have been
clear the air.
depressing.
And, yeah,
It
but
would have been depressing. There would have been no aliens. I forgot about adventure and the Force because I watched, watching the entire Andor series. And then when that Force healer shows up, I was like, oh yeah, mysticism. That's in Star Wars. Right, the Force. I almost forgot. Everything just sucked. Like, everything was just dour. I just forgot about it.
You know what?
I'm just saying in terms of like him showing world building or just the New Republic, right? Or the Resistance. I think he did such a great job at kind of getting everybody to understand what that entailed and what those people were doing. And the way he told the story was so captivating. So I think it just wasn't the primary focus of the Force Awakens writers. And they kind of just assumed that we would assume. And I guess it didn't really matter maybe that much to touch base on it. But I do see where there were cracks and, the fault line there, because it definitely was left unanswered for sure.
Even in the original trilogy, we didn't get a whole lot of the inner workings on the rebellion and its hierarchy, like maybe a little bit near the end, like in Return of the Jedi. But as a whole, we didn't get a lot of that, that inner workings. Even with the Empire, it took books and other what's the word I'm looking for? Carrie stories and things like that to really get, the breadth of what these organizations were. The fact that they haven't delved into that enough yet with the sequel trilogy era, and they're starting to, which means that we're going to flesh out, I think, this era more as the years go on, like the way that the original trilogy era and the prequel era were fleshed out a lot more as the years went on. So there's still they still have a lot of work to do in that era. I think
Definitely.
Tony Gilroy should write like a Red Hood movie or something.
Red Hood?
Yeah.
Who was Red Hood? Are you talking about Marvel Red Hood or?
Oh, there's
No,
DC.
DC.
DC?
So you know how Batman has Robins. So his second Robin was named Jason Todd.
Yes.
Joker beat him with a crowbar and then blew him up, right? Then he got thrown in this like magical pit,
Yeah.
and he came back.
Lazarus Pit.
But he was Red Hood, and he started killing people.
Okay. Okay.
So he's like a much darker
Uh-huh.
character.
Oh,
And
I
I feel
see.
like Tony Gilroy would be pretty
He
good
does
at writing
dark.
a
Okay.
story like that.
I got you.
Because the thing is, he's kind of like George Lucas in that he has really great ideas, but sometimes the ideas just aren't fleshed out in like a way that suits the narrative. Like if you were to write The Force Awakens, it would come out a lot darker than I think a mainline
Right.
trilogy
Depressing.
should be.
Fair. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And then, yeah, their goal, definitely, the filmmakers, J.J. Abrams, they wanted to have a fun Star Wars because they wanted it to feel nostalgic, right? Yeah, because it's been such a long time having a film like A New Hope, and, you know, they really revered that film, obviously, because a lot of what we see is a carbon copy of the original film. But they wanted to make sure that, you know, it was fun. And yeah, so there was some darkness in it. I mean, you know, there was some darkness,
Yeah.
but I think it did a good job with blending, you know, the light and the darkness, the tone of the
I
film.
agree.
I don't
Yeah.
think they knew what they wanted to do, honestly, because then you think of The Last Jedi, and that doesn't really feel like a nostalgic Star Wars film. And I mean, I don't know. I feel like they were all over the place with what they wanted to do with them, you know, because I feel like The Last Jedi just threw me off as a film for sure. I know we're talking about The Force Awakens, but I mean, if we're talking about like world building and what they wanted to accomplish with the movies, I feel like it was just kind of all over the place, you know,
Yeah.
with different things going on and different emotions for sure.
Yeah, and to that point, I would say like a criticism that I see a lot of when it comes to like The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi is that they rip off or copy or take inspiration from the original trilogy. But you can't really say that about The Rise of Skywalker, can you?
Is that a joke? Because I think
Other than stealing the Emperor, it just kind of did its own thing.
not really. I
Not
mean,
because it was trying to be different, just
I-
because it didn't know what it was doing.
yeah, I don't think they veered too far off from the Empire, because to me, you know, all these Star
Somehow thought the
Destroyers,
returns.
yeah, Star Destroyers came out of space, you know, out of nowhere. I mean, that's the Empire, so it didn't really look that much different to me.
Did you notice that all the movies in the sequel trilogy have some new hyperspace mechanic?
No.
Like, you remember the light speed skipping from
Yes,
Rise of
right.
Skywalker?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
when Han Solo jumped to hyperspace in a planet?
Right. Yes.
That was a bit dense.
Yeah, it-
Would have been unlucky if he missed his shot by like half a second and blew up.
it was very dangerous. Yes, yeah, but it was exciting. It was exciting to watch. All right. So, anything else regarding the Resistance and the Republic before we move on to our very last character?
Other than that, I love the Lego Star Wars Force Awakens game for no particular reason.
All right, cool. All right.
100% on mobile.
Okay. All right. Okay. So the last character is what this movie was about, right? We see finally Luke Skywalker. Now, correct me if I'm wrong.
Master Skywalker, there are too many of them. What should we do?
We had no idea what Luke was going to look like, right? Because Mark Hamill didn't do any press. He wasn't in the poster. They kept his, you know, his look, his costume hidden from that. This hidden. They didn't want anybody, you know, there were no pictures, nothing behind the scenes. So us seeing Luke, Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker 30 years later on the screen is the first time everyone has seen it. Is that how you remember it?
It's a good thing Force Awakens didn't come out in 2025. Otherwise, we would have had AI leaks of Luke Skywalker and
Oh my
Lando and
goodness.
R2.
Yeah. But is that the case, right? We didn't know what Luke was going to look like until we saw the film.
No, I mean, no, it was a shocker to me at the very end, you know, because so much had happened in The Force Awakens. There was so much we were learning about, so many characters we were meeting, and then you're kind of just getting acclimated with all of them, and then bam, you know, Rey lands on this little mysterious island, and she's walking up this hill, and it's beautiful and it's green, and then there he is, and he turns around. I just remember being in shock. I think I was overcome with emotion. I didn't even know what to say, you know. But he looked like Luke. I didn't know what he was going to look like, but he looked exactly how Luke should have looked. Honestly, once you know.
Yep, I agree with that.
Yeah, it was like, oh yeah, that's Luke. That's the Luke. We miss you, Luke. I guess he's not vanished anymore. We know where he is. You know.
I think that was a great ending, honestly. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
one
Absolutely.
of the best in all of Star Wars. The way they ended that film.
Yeah, I loved it. And I thought, you know, John Williams' music, the Jedi Steps, I think is what it's called.
The
was-
Force Awakens
was-
has the best
Yeah.
music in every Star Wars film.
Really? Okay. It was really good.
I love that.
It was good. It had some good themes, but the
It's a
Jedi
good one.
Steps was just gorgeous. to
Golly
me.
gosh, I can't wait for The Last Jedi. Can't wait to see how great Luke's gonna be.
Chris, do you want to add anything about seeing Luke?
I know I'm slandering your sacred cow here.
Like I said earlier, that like going through this movie, like I totally forgot about Luke. So I was like, oh yeah, oh cool, yeah, that's cool. I forgot about him. I forgot he was still out there. Awesome. So yeah. I thought it was cool the way they brought him in. I dug, like, you know, how he looked, and I was just waiting to see, like, you know, what the character was going to be like. And unlike others, I liked this character in The Last Jedi, as that movie was really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I thought it was a good
That's
ending. I
just
love
me.
the aerial shot, you know, the circling around with the camera. I thought it was really good. And then the
Yeah.
end credits, and then
Mm.
there we go. That's The Force Awakens. So in
8 out
summary,
of 10.
okay, right. You
8.5.
took the, you know, that was the question I was going to ask you. Like, in summary, like, what did you think of this film?
I
8
read
out
your
of 10.
mind.
Okay. 8 out of 10.
Okay, 8.2.
8.2.
I
Okay.
don't usually do ratings other
Mhm.
than like half steps.
Okay.
8.2.
All right. Kyra, you know, summarize this film for me, you know, like, you know, especially now that it's 10 years old. Yeah, is it as good as it was when you first saw it?
I think so. And I think out of the newer movies, it is definitely one of my favorites for sure, along there with Rogue One. I think it was perfectly titled as well, The Force Awakens. You know, not that a lot of us put Star Wars, you know, on the bookshelf where we weren't thinking about it as much. It really did, I think, awaken a lot of, you know, older Star Wars nerds. It awoken to a new generation, right? And I thought it was just perfectly titled. It still holds up. I always talk very highly of it. And if I get any of my friends to want to get into Star Wars or watch any of the movies, I always recommend The Force Awakens for a newer one or Rogue One. And, you know, it's just, I don't want to say it's a shame, because I think we still have potential stories that are going to come out with these characters, and they're trying to fix some of what they did. I just think there's still some potential and some want for these character storylines to develop, and I'm gonna hold on to that until they do it. So yeah.
Chris, how would you summarize The Force Awakens? Is it as good as when you saw it the first time?
Yeah. I mean, it's got a huge asterisk next to it just because of how Boyega's character was handled.
Yeah.
So that always puts this twinge of like, whenever I watch it. But it's look, it's Star Wars, man. You got me. Like, you know, I'm in no matter what. I'm in. So yeah, I still very much enjoyed it, even with that asterisk in there, and the coulda, shoulda, wouldas of a few things with it. It's still great.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. I am not really a fan of the last two films in the trilogy.
Agreed.
So I look at The Force Awakens as a one-off, you know, like a standalone film.
Yeah, me too.
But the problem is, when you look at it as a standalone film, it feels unfinished, right? Because there's supposed to be more to this story, and we don't really get that. You know, again, you know, with the lightsaber, where did Luke's lightsaber come from? Or, you know, was thin a Jedi, and then what came about that. It's just these potential that this film had. It could have been served better if the other two films followed the same storyline. I felt like Episode 8 had a different storyline completely, had nothing to do with The Force Awakens, and then 9 was trying to fix 8. It was just a mess. So it's
Last
still
Jedi's a solid 4.
yeah, it's still an enjoyable film to me, The Force Awakens, but it's still it's unanswered questions, which I feel that we're never going to get the answers to.
We could. There's still time. Just like like I said, there's still stuff from the original trilogy that I need answers to.
Yeah.
I need to know what was going down with that bounty hunter on Ord Mantell. I need to know about the Battle of Tanab. There's so many things. There's so many things, and that's this trilogy is still new. It's still new.
Yeah.
So, there's answers. I didn't know Palpatine's name until probably 1990.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. So you're gonna get answers and whatnot to some things. It's just gonna take time.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong. Aren't they bringing Daisy Ridley back?
Yeah.
For a new film, right? So I think
movie. I don't know if it's gotten off the ground yet. I heard they were cycling scripts.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's not a
I
scenario where we have to wait like a decade for it to come out.
Oh, I mean, I'd rather wait and have them do it right. I know a lot of people won't be as excited. I know, the true fans will, but I think, they're realizing what they can fix. And I think, like you said, Chris, I think we're going to get a lot of the answers in the future. It is going to take them time, but I think it'll be worth the wait. And they know what the fans are thinking. And I think Dave Filoni listens to the fans a lot. And he's like kind of a fan-orientated, director, writer. And, he's a fan himself. So I think when you have people like this at the helm of Lucasfilm now and moving forward really want to lock in and answer a lot of those questions, I think, we're going to get a lot of Force Awakens Part 2 and Part 3 in the future for sure.
Yeah. There's definitely room for more stories.
I agree.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I think that's it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This was wonderful. It's like I said, when I heard about this movie, I felt like a kid again. I was just so excited. Yes, I was so excited to see this film. And I really had a great time going to the theaters, and it allowed me to introduce Star Wars to the next generation. So that's what I appreciate from The Force Awakens. So thank you very much. All right. Kyra, thank you. Where can people find you?
You guys can find me on YouTube or Instagram at Relatable Nerds.
All right. Chris, where can people find you?
Find me on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I think we're on there still. At Broaxium, Broraxium. You can find us. We do Star Wars comics previews every week. We do some gaming. I'm starting to do some Battlefront 2 gaming shows, once or twice a week. Yeah, a lot of good Star Wars stuff going on.
Do you stream? Oh, nice. Cool.
Yep. Keith?
We should work to shorten this.
Yeah, you could shorten it any way you like. You could just say, hey, we're on, we're out there. Just Google us.
I did say that once.
Yeah.
You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Father Son Galaxy. Our website is fathersongalaxy.com. Please check out our merch store, fathersongalaxy.myspreadshop.com, and our Patreon page, patreon.com/fathersongalaxy.
Yeah, and like and subscribe on our YouTube channel.
Give me money and clicks.
And give you money, yeah, okay. Thank you, Kyra Navarrete from Relatable Nerds and Chris Ryons of Broaxium and Around the Galaxy. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, either listening or watching us. Until next time, take care, and we will see you again.
Bye.